Please welcome the incredible Jen Iconic Szpigiel.
Well, that's the first.
There we go. See? Her middle name is so awesome. It's iconic.
Yes. That's how I named my brand. My parents were really ahead of the time.
So her name is really hard to pronounce. I guess most people probably screw it up because there's more consonants and vowels. Anyway.
Yes.
But people know you as Jen from Becoming Iconic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how they know me. Yeah, thank you.
And you were on the show like 3 years ago.
Wild.
Which is crazy because you think of like what we accomplish in 3 years, especially as growth-minded, like go women. I'm really interested to dive in and see what's up in your world these days.
Yeah, well, thank you firstly for having me again. And it's so nice to reconnect, that sometimes the internet feels so big. And then there's these times where you realize it is just such a small world. So it's really nice to be in your presence again. And I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, lots has changed in 3 years. Like a lot has changed. And you and I were just reminiscing when I was on 3 years ago was a day or two after having my social media taken from me, and such a fragile moment. And just not knowing what was next, and feeling like something had been literally taken from me, because as a sole income earner for my family, I felt so vulnerable, so raw, so exposed, so afraid. And that was actually the precipice for so much that's happened after that through that last 3 years since we spoke.
Yeah, and you were on this mad dash to grow your reach again, because you had like a decent following and a decent community.
I did.
Whatever happened, do you know, or did it just vanish?
Yeah, I was hacked, and because I had my Instagram linked to my Facebook, just for the posting purposes, they were able to take both because they were able to log into both. And so now I don't think that would happen today. I think they figured some things out, or at least I hope there's some help for people. Back then there wasn't. I was relentless. I was messaging Meta employees on LinkedIn. Like I was really working to get that back, because there was just so much history and thought leadership and my family vacations. I used it as my photo album in so many ways. And so my pictures of my children, like it was just such a sad scenario. But at the same time, one of the best things that ever happened to me in business and for my vision. So, they say the silver lining, there certainly was. But at that time when you and I were chatting, I hadn't seen it yet.
Okay, well, what was the silver lining? I have to know, because I know there's people that have been through something like this.
Right.
And it's not a gift, but make us believe otherwise.
Right. Well, you know what? Is the right question at the right time. I was meeting with another peer guesting on her podcast. And she said to me, in some ways, it's neat. Like you have a clean slate. Nobody will be able to scroll and sort of know your history. So you almost get to build who you want people to see, or build that new version of yourself. It is like what you said, a clean slate. And she said, what's something you've always wanted to do that maybe you've never done before? She was just very curious with me and pouring life into me at the time where I felt so depleted. And that question, as soon as she asked it, immediately I was like, I've always wanted to have my own magazine. I had gone to school for fashion. Then I went to school for PR, not journalism, because PR was more of just like up my alley, with this like clear vision of starting a magazine. And then I got married and pregnant really young. And so all of those things just kind of got tossed aside. And I hadn't thought about it in a really long time. I'd mentioned it, sprinkled it into conversation throughout my career, but most of the time it was just shot down of that's not going to work. It's not going to make sense to your brand. And it didn't take much to talk me out of it, because I didn't even know how to do something like that. But this just felt like, well, if not now, when am I going to do this? And I need something to create a spark in me again where I feel like I'm treading water. And so that's how I launched Iconic Magazine.
So how old is the magazine now? 3 years?
It launched, it's 3 years, but I would say truthfully, and we talk about this often, she was birthed this year. I would say it took us until this most recent edition, our winter 26 issue, to really land the plane. It was learning about team, having the right art direction, building a network, building its reputation, building my vision for it. What am I leading here? What is the ultimate goal? And it really did start as just a personal project. It was very centered around my brand. It wasn't really truly a magazine, more of a catalog of becoming iconic. But then I started to catch this vision. Then I started to see where there was such a gap for women with quality visibility and PR. There's things out there now that, yes, sure, will give you a moment. But I actually didn't want to build a moment for women. I wanted to build legacy. And so I worked really diligently on being able to be in that integrity and to create something that I could really stand behind and put my name behind. And I can say with full confidence and so much excitement that I have. It's really something really special.
Man, taking on something like that is crazy. Because I remember, crazy in a good way.
Yeah.
It takes an audacious woman to do it. When I had my PR agency, so I know the world of PR.
Yes, you do.
We had an amazing blog.
Yeah.
And this was back in 2012 to 18. And for us to even publish one article a week, that took so much effort.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this being a monthly thing where you have multiple. It's a lot of heavy lifting. And I think we take that for granted, how much work goes into it. But even in this really diluted world of content too, I'm sure there was people why are you doing this? You crazy.
Yeah.
So what's been the driver behind it, especially those days when you're oh gosh, this feels like such a slog?
Yeah. I am a woman of my word. My word is law. So when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. Not to a fault. I don't pressure things that are not working and not aligned, but I knew this was going to work. And I just had this intuitive knowing. And so it was a matter of figuring out how to get there, how to land this plane. We were monthly up until last year. We stopped in spring of 2025. I made the executive decision to go quarterly. Similarly to what you're just saying, it was just this, we were huffing and puffing. And we felt as soon as we were giving the spotlight to women, we were having to transition to the next issue. And I felt like I was just in the world of consumption. That was never the feeling around this. This was coffee table worthy, a beautiful publication women would want to purchase, hold, touch, go back to, put in their living room. And so we really pulled it back, made it meatier. They're just big, thick, gorgeous issues. And all of these decisions led to where I am today, but it was that stick-to-it-ness, because there were times where I thought, what's going on? It's self-funded. I have not had any funding. The amount of, woman power, finances, time, sweat equity that's gone into this is something I haven't yet wrapped my mind around. Actually, I do think there's a bit of a story that's going to come through in 2026 that I think is going to be really valuable for a lot of people listening, because it didn't make money. It was a nonprofit for a long time, And, how many people would see that through? I wonder how many people would, my vision's so big, I'm just going to keep going. I think a lot of times we want that quick, validation or response or ROI, and we get in our own way of success. I've been doing this for so long now. I know some things that are worthwhile take time.
That's true. And sometimes the best business advice from the best coaches will say, don't do that. Where's the ROI?
Yeah.
What's the 2-year, 5-year financial projections for this? And sometimes we don't know.
Right.
When I launched the Pink Skirt Project Summit, I was I'm just going to fill a room. And it wasn't the original event wasn't 30 women. It was over 300. And I get whispers from people in the industry saying, that's absurd. You never make money on your first event. Because we had no offer on the back end. It was just a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this huge pull. It was God was moving mountains, was moving lakes and oceans for me to get this thing done. And I was I know it's going to be something. And we were massively profitable.
Good.
Not only that, the entire day was high vibe, changing lives. It was so well executed. And at the end of the day, I stood there, I was I knew it.
We did that.
I just I needed you to believe me and trust me.
Right.
And it was so dialed in and calculated now that we have a whole team behind it for this year. It's insane. So, there's parts when, yes, you need the analytical brain to step in and be okay, putting the brakes on this thing because it costs too much and we don't see the ROI. We tried.
Yep.
Or there's that like intuitive tug when it's like, keep going. You have to. It might be costing you money now, but think of this as an investment.
Yes.
Because there's something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you don't know it yet, but it's going to be so powerful and so magical that you're going to be like, thank the Lord I stuck to this.
Yes. Yes. And congratulations. And your event definitely has that reputation of very well done, high energy, good energy. So congratulations to you because, they're not wrong that most events don't make money, but they're also not giving us the benefit of the doubt because for me, my greatest success stories were never led by how much money am I going to make with this. It's fascinating, actually. The success stories, my most profitable arms in my business was always led with service. I know this is going to do something to contribute to the world. I know I have something here that I can support another woman in. It was that mission-led belief that ended up being the most profitable. Every time I've led with money thinking, oh, I can see there's something going on here. I'm going to do that too. That's the times I've been frustrated or pressured something. And it just, in my experience, hasn't led. So I really don't drive my business through numbers. I trust the numbers will come and is in fact inevitable if I'm the woman behind this and I lead it the way it deserves to be led.
Okay, so then we have to talk about the flip side of this too.
Right.
Because it's not like you don't make money. It's not like you don't hustle.
Right.
Right. So this question I've been dying to ask too,
right,
is that like most entrepreneurship advice is built on that foundation of scarcity and competition, hustle harder, outwork your competition, sacrifice now for success later. Well, sometimes it's worth it. But you've built your entire brand around the opposite. So what's the one piece of conventional entrepreneurship and wisdom and advice that you think is actually sabotaging us women? And what should they believe instead?
Okay. So you said a word in there that's probably the main vein of everything that I do. And it's like eradicating sacrificial living for women. I feel like some of us are doing better than others, but we have a lot of work to do. There's no exception to this in really removing these feelings like we are going to either have to sacrifice our presence with our family in order to grow our dreams, or we're going to have to sacrifice our dreams in order to be an exceptional mom. Like these trade-offs that we're making. And I can talk about this and share this with such certainty because I was her. When I had my first baby, I had just started in corporate. I was just thriving. I had such a good job. I was a global marketing manager working with Fortune 500 companies, living my best. Like I was literally living my best life. And then I had her and I looked at her and I remember a mom saying to me, "You're not going to go back to work, are you?" And leave her. And that planted this seed of like, oh, somehow I'm going to be a bad mom by being in a career. You have to also know I was like barely 20 years old and I hadn't even figured out who I was yet. So I made the decision to leave my career to be home with her because I thought that was the right thing to do. And in many ways it was. Like I'm so grateful for that time as a stay-at-home mom. I had a son and, the three of us were home together. I loved that time and period in my life. But what I missed was me as a woman. I knew there was more to my story than this great mom that I was waking up and pursuing every single day. Like there was goals and aspirations. And again, I didn't even know who I was. What am I good at? What do I want to be when I grow up? And so entrepreneurship, when I was introduced to it, it made so much sense to me because I thought, oh, wait, I can do both. Like I can actually build this while being home with them. This makes sense. And I thrived. Once I got the idea, it really was, ignorance on fire in many ways. But what I learned through, trial and error, because I wasn't always doing it well. There were times where, I look back at how I was as a mom, like shushing them when they came into the door from school because I was still on calls because I didn't have boundaries. I was in hustle culture. The harder you work, the more money you're going to make. And so I really fell into that category of hustle at all cost. And it did cost me some of my integrity with how I wanted to be as a mom. So there I was sacrificing, right? I was kind of teeter-tottering, trying to figure this out. And finally, I don't know what happened, but there was a moment and a period in my life where I thought, this can't be it. And I really don't believe women are so narrow or our capacity is what everybody believes it to be. I actually think we have infinite capacity, and we're also afraid to see what that means. We're so afraid to stretch because we have these narratives of what's going to happen. Will I be a bad mom? Will my husband be upset? Like all these things we say, we lead with this guilt. And I just decided to go all in on my life and business. I thought, what if I stop worrying so much and I just live each day like how I want to remember it? And I started. And it was when everything started to expand. Abundance came in at such speed, it was almost hard to digest. And it was because I was experiencing what I believe most women, all women, have the ability to experience when they get out of their own way. We get in our own way of success, whether that be in our relationships, in our health, in our business, in our dreams, in our aspirations. We are most of the time our own worst enemy because we worry about things that I now can say with all of my heart and soul are such false narratives. My kids are home today. I'm a mom of 4 now. It's a snow day. I've made a pot of chili. We binged Stranger Things and watched 4 episodes all on the couch. I'm recording podcasts. I did sales calls. I had an executive team meeting. I wrote an article. Like I'm doing all the things and not one. I got up in the morning. I cared for myself. Like there's nothing that's been sacrificed. And I feel like, gosh, I wish more women could taste this because I believe it's ultimately how we would really define success. It's all those things living in harmony together.
You got me thinking. Okay, so most people would say, well, how do you do that? Because you're like, probably, I don't know, get up at 6, do your workout, feed the kids. It's very common for a lot of people to do that.
Right.
But you seem very like, you flow with ease with this. It's not like anything's a burden. And I think for some women, they might look at their partners and say, well, that's not fair because you can just get up and go. So then all of a sudden, we're keeping score, so that becomes the burden. When you remove the idea of the burden, it's like you get to be with your kids and you get to do this work. So when you think of like your 80-year-old self looking back on this day, you'll be like, I was with my children while it was snowing like a snow globe outside and watching Stranger Things, eating chili, doing my thing, building my business, creating the impact that I knew I was destined to do. Like, what a beautiful gift. And like, I bet you had no clue what was going on in the outside world.
No.
You were in your bubble and you were just thriving. So a lot of people look at this and they think, okay, the sacrifice was that maybe I couldn't do this extra sales call or I couldn't do this extra recording because I had to be home with my kids. Now my kids are a nuisance. Or maybe it's like you start to self-sabotage saying, I'm the mom, so it's a snow day. This is God saying, slow down, so don't work. Be with your kids.
Yes.
You know, like there's so much coming in and going out. What you do is you sit there and you just open up this portal of abundance and you're like, let it flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you look amazing. So you wouldn't know that you just accomplished all that. And ate some chili.
I did. And I made the chili in this outfit with an apron on. Like,
what?
Yes.
Of course you did.
Yeah. You know, there's a couple things that come through. Such great conversation because you're absolutely right, Renee. There's so many times we get in our way. So many times we hide behind our children. So this is maybe, I don't like to use trigger. I actually prefer exchanging it for activated. Triggering for me has this negative connotation. It's like a bit of a victim mentality when we use that term. So I like to say activated because even if it feels uncomfortable, it's because I'm saying something that is activating something in you. It doesn't necessarily mean it's your truth, but it's probably gravitating you towards your truth, discernment. But what I will say, and I talk a lot about this on my social media, is I do believe a lot of moms hide behind their kids as what feels like a very valid excuse to not follow through on other things. And I understand it. We want the best. We want to be the best. We love them with our whole body. There's not a pore on our body that doesn't love our babies.
Oh, well, that's your raging teenagers.
Yes.
Then there's some pores that just don't want them.
There's definitely, yes. That's the truth. That's the truth. But you know what I remember saying to myself? I remember kind of projecting forward in a dinner table, because I remember there were times I really did feel guilty. I just wasn't as present as I wanted to be as a mom, because the business just required more of my time and energy, because there's just these seasons. And I remember at times thinking, I need to pull back this, I'm worried about whether there's going to be this lingering effect of me not being so present. And I kind of looked forward. I thought, when they're adults and I'm having this conversation with them, what do I want them to say about their experience with me? And how do I want them to feel about their life growing up? And so as I kind of closed my eyes and imagined that, I imagined them saying, oh my gosh, remember when we went on this trip? And mom, remember when we did this? And I mean, I've always wanted to create as many memory-making moments as possible. And I can say that's my driver for everything that I do, is creating a life with my family and letting other women do the same for themselves through my teaching, is allowing those memories just to be a part of our day. But I had to look at the other side. Well, what if I do slow down? And what if I, really do just prioritize my kids and do this at another time? And I thought about that table discussion, and I thought about them looking at me and going, hey, mom, why did you ever do anything with that becoming iconic business? Or like, whatever happened to that? And I had this very vivid image of me looking across the table and saying to them, well, I gave that up because of you. I just wanted to be a great mom, so I gave that up. And I remember feeling that emotion from their behalf, of the guilt they then got within their bodies of, oh, mom didn't do the things that were on her heart because of us. And I thought, I can't project that. I also don't want to be the example of that we, again, sacrifice ourselves in life. Like, I want to show them to live all out, be fully expressed. And so that really changed my life, because I thought, I want to be across the table and reminisce of all the things we've done. I don't want to sit across the table and look at my children and say, I didn't become the woman I knew I could be because of you. I will not put them in that position or put that upon them. And so that's how I hold myself accountable. And that's how I work myself through moments of overwhelm, because I have it. Nobody's immune to that. But when it comes in my body and I'm like, there's all these things, and I just calm myself down and go, you once prayed for this, so a little gratitude would be nice. And also how you lead this moment is really important. So lead it well. How do you want to remember it? Like, I'm always asking myself that, how do you want to remember this on the other side? And I want to remember patience and trust in myself and trust in my family and trust in my business. And so I allow those things to happen by, again, removing myself from being in the way.
So there's a study that was done by whom I cannot remember. This was years ago, where over a few years they studied thousands of fathers. And it was just a study with fathers and sons in a specific age bracket. I think it was 5 to 12 years old. And basically what they were trying to determine was whether or not the amount of time a father spends with their child affects them becoming young men. Turns out it was not the amount of time. Obviously, time does matter, but it was the quantity of time. So they looked at men that were like executives that worked crazy hours and that maybe had 20 minutes a day. Some of them had 20 minutes a week to be with their kids. Yeah. And when they asked those boys a few years later their memories of their father, all they could remember was the moments they were together, not the time they were apart.
Amen.
And I do believe that this is true for mothers too. Now, one caveat is that I do believe there are sacred years in motherhood that we don't talk about enough. And those are the first 2 years of a child's life, and that physical bond and how important that is. And picture this like a home. And it's like the man's duty to protect the home so that the mother with the newborn or a young toddler can nurture that connection. So when you think about that, like that is like the epitome of what a safe and healthy environment is for a mother raising a young baby, and the partner's role in that too. But this study is fascinating because I felt guilty thinking it was about the time. Now I think about lying on the couch, completely exhausted, overwhelmed, snarky, so short with your kids. How are they going to remember you? As opposed to maybe you taking the time to yourself, or going to the gym, or doing the thing that lights you up to come home and be fully intentional, not just with your children. This shows up as a partner. This shows up in community. This shows up in leadership and business too.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget that study because it was like that, oh, wait, I'm allowed to also follow my dreams and be a mother. Like both can be true. Weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is true. I mean, you think of if I were to put myself in that boy's shoes, he's remembering playing catch with his dad. It wasn't that dad played catch for 1.2 hours it's not that. We're not, putting these caveats around it. It's the memory, it's the moment, it's the bonding, it's the presence and the quality. Absolutely. And, I've been on both sides of the equation. I've been a stay-at-home mom where my first husband was looking after the home in terms of finances so that I could be there with these babies. And it was a wonderful experience. And I've also been a mom of my last two where I was the sole income earner. I didn't take mat leaves. I, had these babies, and I had my husband home, which was such a cool thing, like a really cool experience for both parents to be home full time during that period. And what I can tell you is I much rather have him home and do that with me and me run these businesses and feel like I had an outlet. I feel like that enjoyment of that period of time with them when they were younger, I seized it. I soaked it in, probably age 2. But I really enjoyed it much more than when I was home and just sort of waiting for their dad to get in the door. I remember feeling so lost. So you're absolutely right. When we're in our purpose and when we're doing things that have us come alive, it not only benefits our children, but it benefits us because we feel like we're living the life that was designed for us rather than putting ourselves into molds or boxes because we think we should. And it's different for everyone. It is literally different for everyone. You got to find what works for you, but living both sides of the equation, it's really interesting to reflect. And I don't know if I've done that actually before this conversation of really reflecting of what was the experience vice versa. And I can say that my experience with my last two felt way more grounded, fulfilling, centered, purposeful than the first two where I was just I don't know what's going on.
There's no manual.
What do I do here? What do I do here? Who am I? I don't even have any money. I was a little lost soul. But there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah, those early days were crazy for me because my boys are 11 months apart. And I started an agency when I was 8 months pregnant with Max. 11 months later, welcomed Noah.
Wow.
And so I was just I've never felt burnout so much because I was back to work immediately. The moment they put Noah, my second, on my chest, I had my laptop open and I was checking emails.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was fully embodying this identity of a power mom and a power couple. And that felt good. And so I was trying to live it, but I was dying inside. So on that note, if you could redesign entrepreneurship for women, removing one particular thing and adding something else, what would that be and why?
So if I could change entrepreneurship for women, add something,
if you could redesign it.
I would love to see the pendulum come back to that sweet spot a little bit more. We are really good at pendulum swings. We came from hustle culture, and so many of us hit burnout. So many of us experienced just misaligned work ethic and this feeling like we had to be on all the time. You just expressed it and shared it. And that's one of many stories I'm sure you have heard and I have heard. There's so many women that know that feeling and have been in a similar or at least similar feeling circumstance. And so in our rebellion against hustle culture, we swung so far over into this ease and flow culture that hurt so many women in entrepreneurship. It actually breaks my heart because what the message was that you could just sit back and manifest. And if you were truly in your feminine energy, you would manifest and attract clients, and sales should be effortless. And if you're doing it right, you don't even have to work. You can be at the beach or at yoga and business is booming. And I remember watching this happen, and I'm seasoned, I've been around for a while. I remember watching this going, I get it. I understand why this is so attractive and why it's so seductive, because we don't want to be in that masculine hustle energy. But this is also not the answer. It's the two coming together, this sweet spot, and it's probably going to tick a little bit. It's going to swing based on what's going on. And it's embracing both sides and what's required right now. And I wish that would be more acceptable for entrepreneurs. I wish work ethic and sweat equity and a little grit got sexy again, because if you were able to embrace that, roll up your sleeves, get in it, like actually build the darn thing. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So put in the time, but then do it in an honorable way for yourself, reminding yourself that it's not in sacrifice, reminding yourself to bookend your days with nourishment, whether that's going for a walk or cleansing your face or cuddling your kids at night. What is that? I don't know. You have to figure that out for yourself of what drops you into that feminine. But it is the ebb and flow of that in your day. And don't make one wrong, one right. They're both right. It's just you've got to find your sweet spot. And when you do, and people say this to me all the time. They're like, I've never met someone so in their feminine, but yet has so much masculine energy too. And I said, because I had to master this as someone who witnessed and probably swung a little bit myself, to be honest with you, but realized that's not the way. The way is, again, coming back to that personal trust. And for women to not be so afraid of the work that is involved. Trust yourself.
Oh my gosh. I'm just thinking of like the trauma that I experienced, that I inherited from those early days of growing my agency. Because we did well, like super profitable, millions of dollars. And it looked good on paper, looked good in magazines, in newspapers, on podcast. But wow, it was so traumatizing. We were going through due diligence to be acquired, and that was also a gnarly experience. And like the 2 to 3 year earnout, all the stuff was like, I can't do this anymore. I shut the doors, and I was just so frozen to succeeding in anything. Because here's what happened was I attributed success to being overworked. And that the only path to being profitable, to enjoying my work, to like spending time with my kids, to like have the ideal life meant that I had to sacrifice.
Right.
And there's still bouts of it that happens now, but we have so much, we have resources, we have people, we have a team. I also know my boundaries. And also maybe it's like the give no F's 40s too, when I was like, I don't want that. Nope. And yes, I will demand what I want.
Right.
And I don't care who's angry about it. I know, because I've lived through the alternative. I've lived to being the quiet woman, the one who doesn't speak up for her truth, or just like always apologizing for what she needs. And now I'm like sending my husband all the TikToks about perimenopause, and he's like, stop it. I'm like, nope, I'm not stopping until you start asking me questions about this. It blocks me. But it's like, gosh, that's the thing is there was like this anti-hustle culture that started during, almost like my experience was during the pandemic. And I get what they were doing. It's almost like any new movement has to go so extreme to get the attention, but what they're really trying to achieve is something in the middle.
That's right.
And for some people, it landed there. Right. And for some people, it was exactly as you described. To think, realistically, if we could all just sit there on a beach and manifest multi-millions of dollars, rubbing our crystals together, we would all be entrepreneurs.
We would. We would all be at that same beach rubbing our crystals together. Like it would, and it wouldn't be much fun. Like it really wouldn't be. Like, what are we actually trying to achieve with that anyways? So yes, I agree.
Oh my gosh. So crazy times. Now you've mentored thousands of women. Is that correct?
Yes. Many.
Across different industries, different income levels.
Yeah.
What is the pattern you see in women who actually succeed and stay fulfilled versus those that are burning out and abandoning their dreams?
Stick-to-it-ness. Stick-to-it-ness. And what I mean by that is first of all, let's even kind of go back to the hustle burnout conversation we're having. There's that personal trust keeps coming up for me. I think there's like a through line in our conversation today around that. If you've ever had burnout or experienced burnout, you're going to know the clues and cues, and you're going to be so heightened to that because you're never going to want to go back there again. So what their self-trust comes through of like, what if you trusted yourself to go all in and, build this thing, and that you're going to be more aware, more heightened to those clues and cues than ever before, that when you feel any of those hints or, symptoms, that you'll actually be able to counter, like whether that's change course or give yourself some rest, etc. So that self-trust of knowing that, this isn't about going back to burnout. This is about trusting yourself that you've been there, you learned the lesson, and you're going to do better now moving forward. Stick-to-it-ness is when, and if you ever did hit burnout again, is, living, we've lived through it. We can do it again. There's resilience there, but then there's course correcting and keep going. Keep going. I think stick-to-it-ness has the best value of all because circumstance will always happen. The evidence doesn't show up first. There's things that are going to happen in the world that distract. There's always going to be things bouncing at us. And so the successful women who have had true legacy, like I'm talking women who live a great life, have grown a sustainable business. If I were to look at the main ingredient, it's their willingness to see things through, to stick things through, to trust themselves, to course correct, and to grow through their business. I mean, entrepreneurship is the best personal growth journey there is. There's nothing else like that. There's no conference.
What are you talking about?
Right?
It's so easy.
And
why do we do it?
Yeah, because it's so rewarding. Like I think of exercise, I think of parenting, I think of marriage. I always question, I'm like, God, I feel like these things should be the easiest things in our lives. If it's like we're birthing a baby, shouldn't that be one of the easiest relationships that we have? It's struggle when those kids are teenagers and, you just feel like they've totally abandoned you in many ways. A marriage, shouldn't that be so full of like love and intimacy and passion and connection because we've decided to be together, yet it's one of the hardest relationships that I know. Entrepreneurship, why can't it be easy? It's our dream. It's our purpose. It's our mission. Like, shouldn't this come effortlessly? And yet it takes the most effort and grit and like that. And then it's all so worthwhile because once you work through those moments on the other side, it's so rewarding. Like those workouts when I don't feel like going and then I do it, those are my best workouts versus the ones that were easy.
Yeah. Well, I think of Brene Brown's quote when she's like, if you're not the one in the ring getting punched, then your opinion doesn't matter.
True.
And it's almost like saying that to yourself because you've been in the ring, you've been punched. First, birthing a child also, and like, secretly between us, I think men don't understand the amount of pain that we go through because it's, quote, natural. Right. If it's natural, then why should it be so painful? It's the most diabolical thing.
Yes, it is.
Right? And the research now says that it takes women almost 10 years to recover from birth. So I'm like, just out of the clear now, emotionally. But anyways, so it's like and I'll never forget the story. One day my kids were fighting and it was so crazy. And I was trying to get out the door to get to the bus stop because if they miss the bus, it becomes just a cascade of crap.
Right.
And I was like, just put on your sweater, get in the car. Like, why is it so hard today? And I was like clenching the steering wheel so hard, backing up. And I was saying to myself, Renee, you have to become the woman that can deal with this. What do you need to do to become the woman that can just deal with these scenarios and keep going? And it was like me looking at myself saying, you were just in the ring getting punched. So now your opinion matters.
Right.
And it takes practice. It takes muscle to be able to just deal with it. But then when you're faced with it again, you're like, Like I know it's good. Like you're going to have another baby. I know what's expected.
Right.
They get sued for wrongful dismissal. Now it's like, I know the process, right? Like a client doesn't pay the bill. I know what I'm supposed to do. But the first time sucks so bad.
It does.
But when you look at every single one of your mentors, the woman that's like the fitness model on the cover of a magazine, or like our business mentors, they live like they're our idols because they've achieved something that we aspire to achieve. Mm-hmm. They've felt it all.
Yes,
they've been, and they just keep going. It's that perseverance. Mm-hmm. And they can have both. They can have the ease and flow of being a nurturer, like in their feminine. And then they can also be in their masculine and crush deals and get on the stage and lift heavy weights.
That's right.
It's like, it's available to us. And that pendulum, there are seasons when it swings really hard one way, mm-hmm. but it's up to us, especially through like discernment and agency, to recognize that we also need to bring it back to the middle. And that's entirely up to us.
You're absolutely right.
That's what it means to be iconic, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And what comes up for me too is an extension to that stick-to-it-ness and what you're saying here. Really, like, how do I stick to it when it's difficult? And how do I work through that, Renee, when I'm having a client not pay their bill? It's being able to hold more, because we want to have more success, but we're naive to think that success isn't going to come with more responsibility, more challenge, more chiseling. Like, your leadership is required. And so we have to just know that, like, with more comes more of everything. And so who are you going to be behind that? And that really, to me, is what differentiates success. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you have to become the women that can be okay to say the bigger yeses and the bigger nos.
Right. You're absolutely right.
And just to know what to say no to and what to say yes to.
Not easy either.
So what are actually the big things you're saying no to this year?
I'm not in a no season. I would say I'm saying no to lowering my standards. I'm saying no to anything that makes me even feel the feeling of stepping out of my personal power. I'm saying no to anything that doesn't honor the big vision. In terms of what's going on my calendar and the business, I'm in this like season of yes. So if it's aligned and it feels good, it's a yes for me. So I don't know if anybody's ever read the book A Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. It's a fabulous book because it's so counterintuitive and really the opposite of what everybody's teaching. Everybody's saying, say more, say no all the time, like be really good at saying no. Her book is all about the total opposite. Say yes, say yes, say yes. And I really loved reading it because it was, again, these pendulum swings. She's, that was far this side, then the nose, the far. It's like, trusting ourselves. For me, I want to say yes and be in rooms and experience and meet new people, see where this all can go and lead. The no for me is anything that pulls me out of my power, pulls me out of my standards of excellence, has me waver in the woman I've become. That would be a very big no to me because I've worked so hard and it makes me cry. Worked so hard and for so long to get to this place that I protect my energy now like a newborn baby.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And it gets easier to say no to because you just know that I could say yes to this and then feel the ick.
Yeah.
Or I say no to this and protect my energy.
Yeah.
But one thing, hopefully you're saying yes to, it's coming to the Pink Skirt Project Summit in July.
I know. We got to make that happen. We got to talk, you and I got to know all the details. And it just sounds so exciting. And I get to wear a pink skirt. I have one. So I need to wear it.
I don't.
Yes.
I have like multiple because I travel with a pink skirt. I have them in my studio here because you never know when there's a photo op.
That's right.
And you just got to throw one on, and we did B-rolls yesterday.
That's fun.
I love all this. It is so kind of the direction I was actually, this was exactly what we needed. Because to summarize this, I think both can be true, but both don't have to be true.
Right.
And it's really up to you to create your truth between hustle and ease and flow. And it's like being in the yang. If you want to grow in business, you're going to experience both, hopefully. I have one last question for you.
Sure.
Question I asked you 3 years ago, and I would be so curious to know what your answer was.
Oh.
But when I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that to you?
I'm certain it's a different answer. I have to go back and listen to what I said. It is so clear to me what a wild woman is. She's free. She's fully expressed. She's audacious. She's not afraid to show all those parts of her that make her so unique and rare and special. In a world that feels so much the same, it gets me excited to think about a wild woman. It gets me like turned on to think of a woman just being herself and allowing us to experience that through her. Nothing to me is more motivating than that. An alive, wild, expressed woman. More of those, please, in 2026 and beyond.
Let's go. Let's go. Okay, Jen, if people want to go online to find you, where can they go?
I would say there's two places I am always, and that's on Instagram. One handle's Becoming Iconic, and then the other one is Iconic Magazine _. So the Becoming Iconic side is more of business mentorship, thought leadership, and then the Iconic Magazine is a media and publication house where there's a complementary digital copy, there's the physical copy, and all sorts of really beautiful, inspiring lifestyle and business conversations going on. So lots of beautiful things if they want to plug in.
Love it. Well, Jen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Renee, for having me. It was so fun being with you again.